it's very sad because I've been trying to get Gavin Newsom to allow water to come. You'd have tremendous water up there. They send it out to the Pacific.
Of California should not have to put a fact check up on his site that says Trump is conflating two entirely unrelated things: the conveyance of water to South California and supply from local storage. No such document as, quote, water restoration declaration exists. It's pure fiction.
Sure, this is exactly what anyone in the middle of a historic disaster ravaging homes and ruining lives needs. The governor to take a step away from helping folks to offer a needed fact check combating lies spread by the president-elect in the middle of the chaos. And he's not even in office yet.
You know, people are literally fleeing. People have lost their lives. Kids lost their schools. Families completely torn asunder. Churches burned down. This guy wanted to politicize it.
As of today, at least 7 people have been killed and thousands of structures have been destroyed or damaged as infernos fueled by high winds and drought conditions have ravaged the Los Angeles area over the past few days. And as I've said in a previous video and posted on my stories, I live in Pasadena, so I've been on the ground volunteering, speaking to people on the ground who have been working tirelessly together to help those in desperate need. Despite what Trump is attempting to do, people are clotting as one, as a community in the face of grief. Community centers across Pasadena are almost maxed out on volunteers. Yet the man elected by over 77 million people in the country claims that everyone is divided and took the opportunity to renew his long-running feud with Governor Gavin Newsom and the state of California in general while spreading easily debunked lies.
There's also, which I think is particularly the most damaging story, which is that there was $17 million cut from the fire budget. And that's also inaccurate. So last year's budget had an extra $17 million because they bought one-off expenses. These SCBAs for respiratory protection for firefighters and new suits. Those aren't in the new budget because you buy them once every several years. Also, there's an additional $50 million that's been set aside for the fire department. And when they were doing the budget negotiations, it wasn't finished. So that money is coming. There will actually be more money in the fire budget next year.
Tasked with trying to offer a dose of reality to those willfully digesting said vitriol was Fox News The 5 host Jessica Tarlov. And just listen to how quiet the panel gets when they're met with facts on the clickbait stories they're pulling from bought blue checks on X to run as fact.
Right here, ladies and gentlemen, this is the leadership of the LA Fire Department. I sure hope they know what they're doing.
But to Greg and Jesse's points about, this is because of DEI or what we need is practical solutions. There is so much bad information swirling around about the main players involved in this, like the fire chief who's been called a DEI hire. I take her resume any day. 24-year vet, paramedic, engineer, fire inspector, captain, battalion chief, fire marshal, deputy chief.
Oh, that's gotta hurt! Proving my point.
No, I'm not proving your point.
Yes, you are. You're proving it because
DEI
makes everybody suspect. That is the problem. And you guys paraded it around. So now you put it in people's heads.
No, you put it in people's heads.
How?
Actually, some people do.
No, no one cares what he calls them, Jessica. The state is on fire. The state's on fire, and you're out here saying they have water.
No.
They don't have water.
I'm saying that the tanks were full. There was a pressure problem. Either way,
Jessica, there's a pressure problem because their tank was empty, all right?
Many fire hydrants, we're told, in the Pacific Palisades neighborhood of Los Angeles have actually gone dry. What is the situation like right now? Do you have adequate supplies of water to fight this fire?
Yeah, I've been up in that area since about 3 this morning. I've seen no sign of water deficit up there. There's been water coming out of all the hoses that I've seen just by driving through. Again, I haven't heard any news of that myself.
Do you have any idea, Brent, how long your current water supply in the area will last?
I'm sorry, Wolf. I just don't know where the source is coming from, so I don't.
Of California should not have to put a fact check up on his site that says Trump is conflating two entirely unrelated things: the conveyance of water to South California and supply from local storage. No such document as, quote, water restoration declaration exists. It's pure fiction. Why can't President-elect Trump take the mandate that he got, right? A lot of left-leaning people voted for him and show up and just say,
I know we're in the middle of Jesse on Jesse action, but let's hear from Jesse Water.
I was loving that action.
Jesse.
I mean,
now, it wasn't just Jessica Tarlov who had her work cut out for her, offering much needed clarity on the subject matter. CNN's Daniel Dale warmed up his vocal cords as he prepares for a busy 4 years covering the lies of a man who on record spewed more than 30,000 lies during his last term.
What Trump said there, is it true?
I showed a social media post from the president-elect yesterday to an expert in California water policy, a man named Jeffrey Mount. He said, Abby, none of it is true. So this has just been a staggering quantity of wrongness from the president-elect in a very short period of time. And there have been some small specific examples. Like he keeps saying that Governor Newsom refused to sign a so-called water restoration declaration. In fact, no such declaration even exists, as Newsom's office has pointed out. He also said yesterday that they're not using firefighting planes. We've seen those planes. They're there. But more than that, Abby, I think the president-elect has promoted an overarching false narrative. You heard a bit of it there, that the challenges we're seeing in the firefighting effort have something to do with a long-running policy battle about how much water should be kept in the north of the state to protect fish species like the Delta smelts and other environmental ecosystems, and how much should be sent to the south to help agricultural interests, farmers in an area called the Central Valley. Now, 2 water policy experts in California told me emphatically yesterday, none of this has anything to do with each other. There is simply no connection between the protection of that smelt fish in that estuary in the Delta in the north and what we're seeing in the south for a number of reasons. But number one, there is no shortage of water in the Los Angeles area. The reservoirs are at or above historical levels. The water is there. Now, we have seen high-profile issues in one part of the city, Pacific Palisades, where some hydrants were dry or did not have a lot of water. But that was not because there was not enough water in the region. That was because of technical, logistical, infrastructure issues related to the hilly, mountainous terrain and the location where water tanks have been situated. So the idea that not enough water has been sent down from the north and instead has been, protecting a little fish there, and that's why we're seeing these fires be hard to contain, simply does not bear out at all.
That's really important information there, Daniel. One other thing, Trump is talking about President Biden not leaving him any money with FEMA to deal with these wildfires. What are the facts around that?
It's just not true. We heard this from Trump after Hurricane Helene in the fall. It wasn't true then, and it's not true now. Now, it is true that FEMA's disaster relief fund was severely depleted by the number of disasters last year, but critically, Abby, it was replenished by the disaster relief supplemental bill that President Biden signed in December. I spoke to FEMA yesterday. They told me that there is approximately $27 billion today in that disaster relief fund, plus billions of dollars of additional disaster-related funding they have in other pockets of money. Now, it is true that $27 billion might well not be enough to cover the needs produced by every disaster we unfortunately end up seeing over the rest of 2025. But $27 billion is simply not no money, which is what Trump said yesterday.
And here's the thing, right? As I said yesterday, I'm used to this from Trump, but when it literally hits home, as I'm spending days in my community and hear these lies regurgitated as a means to politicize this complex and devastating event, it is infuriating because it helps absolutely nobody, right? All it does is offer confusion and attempt to divide. But what I've witnessed, and many across Los Angeles have posted as testimony, is the polar opposite. People are uniting behind the sole cause of just getting through this horrific event. And if people want to point fingers and politicize this event, maybe start with the insurance companies that canceled policies as dire weather conditions approached.
Sadly, many insurance companies have canceled insurance for a lot of the families who have been affected and will be affected, which is only going to delay or place an added burden on their ability to recover. And I think that is an important point that must be raised, and hopefully there can be some way to address that issue, because these families, so many of them, otherwise will not have the resources to recover in any meaningful way. And many of them have lost everything.
Maybe instead direct their attention to political officials that threatened to withhold aid out of spite. Oh, that's right. Who did that again?
He was actually going to withhold aid from California after the 2018 wildfires until his aides showed him that there were parts of Orange County, California, that supported Trump. And because of that, he relented. I mean, and that happened in Puerto Rico after Hurricane Maria. He delayed aid to Washington State, which was run by a Democrat, for 4 months. He told the governors of Connecticut and Maryland that they should ask nicely for their disaster aid. They were not Trump acolytes. He delayed disaster aid to the state of Georgia by 55 days because he was mad at Governor Kemp for certifying the election in favor of Joe Biden. He delayed aid to Utah after the Republican governor certified Biden's electoral victory. This is what he did in the first term.
Love this video? Make sure you stay up to date on the latest breaking news and all things Midas by signing up to the MeidasTouch newsletter at MeidasTouch.com/newsletter.